So, hello everyone. Hopefully the stream is started correctly. My name is Andre, and this is the 4th episode of the Boring Kentico Show. Just like any other time, I will share a link for a GoToMeeting in the chat window. So if you want to talk to me, just join the meeting, and I will try to monitor that every once in a while to see if there is anyone. If you have any questions regarding Kentico, feel free to jump in and ask. If I know the answer, I will try to give it to you. All right. So the link is here, and I will probably post it on the Twitch page as well. Let me just take this off for a second. While I do that, you might as well enjoy looking at my desktop. This picture was actually taken by me on my last vacation on Martinique. Very nice destination if you're looking for a summer vacation in November. That's a very nice location to go to. So I will set that link in. So on the Twitch panel, where I have the links for the previous recordings, I will put that link there as well, because I think that if you join the chat room later, you don't really have access to the links that were shared before. So we'll put that here. Okay, I think we're good. Perfect. So on the previous sessions on the Twitch panel, there is a link for the GoToMeeting. Feel free to join if you have any questions. So today, I actually want to show you a little bit about GraphQL and Kentico Cloud together. So if you want to use these two together, you're on the right place right now. At the start, I will try to show you how you can use GraphQL with Gatsby. Because that's the first option that you have with Kentico Cloud. Then I will show you the boilerplate that we have for Apollo and GraphQL. So that's the other way of using GraphQL in your projects. I'll explain that a bit later. But just so you know, I've created 2 articles about this topic. First of them is called How to Make Your Website Clean and Maintainable with GraphQL. The other one is a bit more hands-on. So if you go to the end of the article, there is a link for the next article. Which is called How to Use GraphQL with Apollo on your website. So the first one is rather theoretical. It shows why you should do that. Let's go back. Why you should do that, how it's going to help the overall process of building websites, what is the advantage of actually using GraphQL on websites, and the other article is about using the boilerplate that we have for Kentico Cloud and Apollo and Express Node.js server that will really speed up the start with this technology. Now, because FreeCodeCam actually moved out of Medium, this article was published before they actually did the change. So sometimes the images are loaded incorrectly. So if that happens, just reload the page and you should be good to go. But let's start with Gatsby. So I assume that you guys know about Gatsby and how Gatsby works. Gatsby is a static site generator, and we actually have one website built on top of that. It's called Kentico Advantage. We've released that I think last year in December, and that website is built completely on Gatsby. It's completely static. Right now I have it running locally on localhost, but if you go to advantage.kentico.com. This is the production website that is built on Gatsby, that is powered by Kentico Cloud, and is using GraphQL internally. Now, what I can show you here, let me start the Visual Studio Code. I can show you how the implementation actually looks like. So using GraphQL with Gatsby is one way how you can use GraphQL with Kentico Cloud. Let me just locate and open the right folder on the second monitor, and I'll show you the implementation. So I'm looking for Kentico Advantage. There it is. Okay, cool. So here we go. This is the standard Gatsby website structure. Gatsby config, Gatsby node, and other things. I'm not sure if I actually have a key or anything here, production key, so I will rather not go through all the config files. Otherwise I would have to restore or cancel and renew the keys. But the important thing that I wanted to show you is that under source, under components, you see there's quite a few of components, and under pages there are also some templates and so on. But let's see if I can locate a component that has a nice showcase of a GraphQL. Okay, here we go. There's a template for page or for face, maybe even better. I think we have also some GraphQL queries here. So the template for face actually allows Gatsby to generate all the pages for different phases. As you see them here, the project phases: gathering, planning, developing, testing, deploying, and maintaining. All of these are generated dynamically based on content that is in Kentico Cloud, and Gatsby actually takes care of generating these pages. And it generates them according to this template and according to the data that we provide to Gatsby during build. So the way how it works is, let me actually draw something here with my favorite Epic pen. It will just take a second to load. Okay, I think we're good. Oops, that was the wrong monitor. So the way how it works with Gatsby is that there is a Kentico Cloud here. I'll try to draw the logo. Okay, so this looks like a sun. So there's a Kentico Cloud that provides data to Gatsby. Let's do another color here. Gatsby. And Gatsby actually turns that data into GraphQL nodes. Yeah, so we have a few nodes here. Now this looks a bit weird, but you get the idea. And when we have all the nodes, then in your implementation, let's do that with the blue color here. This is your implementation of the website. Your website and the components and the pages and everything just uses the data from Gatsby, right? So there is no direct link between Kentico and your website, but Gatsby actually creates the GraphQL nodes for you. So this is a GraphQL. And in your components, you then use all the data using GraphQL to generate all the pages. When you're ready with the website, you let Gatsby generate the whole thing. And when you have that, let's do that here. So Gatsby generates, based on your implementation, it generates a package that you deploy to GitHub or Netlify or any other service that lets you host static pages, right? Let's enhance this a bit. Okay, so these are the static pages, right? So the GraphQL is used in your implementation to get data from Gatsby, and Gatsby gets the data from Kentico Cloud. So this is one way of using GraphQL. Oh, let me actually remove it all and hide this for now. I'll just move it to another screen. And this is actually the component where I use the data from Gatsby. So here you can see that I'm getting all the items that are of type phase, and I'm filtering that by the ID. So the ID is something that identifies a page, and I'm getting from the page the elements for title, for URL, content, overview, teaser, icon, basically everything that is displayed on the page. Yeah, and when I have everything here, including the navigation, you can see that I'm getting all the navigation items as well into this page, because I think there is a breadcrumbs, which will definitely need the navigation data, and I think there is also a menu somewhere. Yeah, maybe it's in a page that is one level above. But the main point is that here you can actually use the data. So the data returned by this query you can then use in the HTML markup of the page. So here you see that there is an object called face, and the face, if you look at the source, is coming from the data result. So this is the result of the GraphQL query. We're getting the face, the first edge, and then we're doing some adjustments so that we can achieve the HTML output that we want, right? And here I think we're working with the navigation somehow. Now this implementation, I haven't seen this implementation for over half a year, so not sure why we did what we did here. But just so you know, this is a post-processing after the GraphQL query returns the results. And the result you can see here, this is actually one of the items that has also child items. If we go through, I think that there will also be, not here, but there will definitely be somewhere scenarios. Let's look at developing. I think we have some scenarios here. So some images, and there are the scenarios, right? So these are the structured data that are coming from Kentico Cloud into this page and are consumed via the GraphQL query. So this is one of the ways how you can do that. If you want to look more into Gatsby, we have a few articles that are published already regarding Gatsby on Gatsby blog or on our company blog. So feel free to check out those. Or if you want more details, just ping me, and I can do another session on just Gatsby. It's actually very straightforward and very nice to work with. So that's one way how to use GraphQL. But what I want to show you today is something that is a bit more technical, and that is about the GraphQL and Apollo combo. Now, why would you use GraphQL at all? You can take a look at this article. The main point or the main takeaway from this is that GraphQL actually takes you from or enables you to create a separation of concerns. It enables you to create a wrapper around all the different APIs. So if you have on your website, if you have a form submissions, contact forms or things like that, if you have a full text search, you get the data from another system. So usually you need to work with multiple APIs. And the purpose of GraphQL is that the front-end designer, the one who actually creates the website, who maintains the website, doesn't really care about where the data are coming from. But he's working only with GraphQL, only with one mean of getting and submitting data. And if he needs to submit the data from a contact form, he doesn't really care how the GraphQL does it. He just cares that the right method or the right mutation of GraphQL was called, and GraphQL will take care of the rest. So it will find the form.io resolver and send that data via SOAP or via REST API to the respective system. Now this is easy because, or this has many benefits because for one thing, the front-end implementation gets much easier because the front-end designer doesn't really need to know all the specifics. He just needs to focus on the specifics of the website. And the resolvers can be very easily replaced with another ones. So if I decide that instead of Azure for a search service, I want to use Algolia, I can just change the resolver and everything will work the same way. I don't even have to touch the website implementation. Yeah, so that's the main benefit here, to kind of abstract the work with data from the specifics of those services. And if we go to the next article, that actually shows, or is it this one? Let me check. I think it's the other one. Yeah. So in this article, I'm actually diving a bit more into, whoops, not what I had in mind. So let's try it in another way. So this link seems to lead to FreeCodeCamp directly, but it doesn't really work. Oh, let me just locate the article on Medium. Okay, just a second. Okay. I think it's this one. Okay, so we're back on Medium. Now here, what I'm showing is how to actually put it all together. But first of all, let me draw another picture here with Epic Pen to show you how that actually differs from Gatsby and from the way how the things work with Gatsby. So we still have Kentico here. But instead of Gatsby, here we have a Express server. And on the Express server, let's do that like this. There is an Apollo server running. If you don't know the names, don't be frightened. It doesn't really matter. The names, the namings. The important thing is that there is something that actually hosts the GraphQL schema. Now, how it works? Then there is your website implementation. I'll try to keep the same colors. And how it works here, I'm actually running out of colors. Oh, let's try green. How it works here, that you first need to create a schema. Schema is something that actually defines what kind of data you have. Let's make it the first rectangle. What kind of data you have and what kind of queries you want to have. That's the other thing. Now, this can be defined either manually or in case of Kentico Cloud, you can do that automatically via the type generator. But in case of other services like YouTube, that I will try to show you in a moment, in that case, there is no such generator, so I will have to define all the types manually. In case of Kentico Cloud, you can use the generator to generate the schema, and then the YouTube will have to define that manually. And then what happens is that the schema from both these systems, including the queries, we will provide that to Apollo. So this is just about the schema. Yeah, this is not getting data anywhere yet. This is just providing the types and the queries. Now what Apollo is going to do is he's going to turn that into, or he's going to basically turn that into something that we can call to ask for data. So let's create this bucket, green bucket. And how it's going to work is that for each of these queries, so we have the types, that's the left rectangle, and the queries. Let me actually make the queries with a different color. Let's use this one, for example. So light yellow, yeah? And for each of these queries, so let's say we have 4 queries here. One is used for getting articles, other one is for getting phases, for example, on the Kentico Advantage side, and one would be for getting the YouTube videos, for example. Now what we need to do is, for every query, we need to provide a resolver. I'm just going to do a different element for this. So let's make it a rectangle. Sorry, not rectangle, triangle. So for each of these queries, you need to provide a resolver. So these two will be for Kentico Cloud, for example, and I'll write here one for YouTube. So these resolvers, what actually happens is that when someone, that's actually your website implementation, when that asks for data, it asks that Apollo client. So here is an Apollo client, let's call it AC, that is used directly by your implementation, and that client asks Apollo server for a specific type of data. Could be, give me YouTube videos. And when that happens, the Apollo server, let's do that with this color again, Apollo server goes here and takes a look at this resolver. So he knows that we're looking for YouTube videos. So he goes right in, finds the right resolver, lets that resolver run its code, and return the data back. And when we get the data back, we can work with it in the website implementation. Yeah. So it's in this image it looks a bit more complicated, but it's actually very easy, as I will show you in the implementation. So I'll just remove all this, and I will show you how it all actually works in the implementation. So let's move this away, and let's, oops, I'm still drawing on the screen. And let's close this folder for now. Okay. And what I will actually do, I will start with the boilerplate. The boilerplate contains the basic settings for Express. It contains the basic types and some other things that I would actually need to configure myself. And I would probably spend like a half an hour doing that. So it's easier to start with that. There is a link to it. Let me just find it. I think we can go here. There's the first link for GitHub. I think we can go a bit up. And here you'll find a nice README. So I will just follow the process for running the thing locally. If you're looking for this repository, it's under Kentico organization, and it's called Cloud boilerplate Express Apollo. And I will actually clone that into a local folder called Apollo. So this is an empty folder, so I'll just run a PowerShell here and follow the instructions that are outlined. So first I'll run git clone. Let me just copy this. Okay, this should take a second. Perfect. So this should create a folder for me. Okay, it's here. So I'll enter the folder and install the dependencies first, and then I can run the boilerplate. All right, when this is finished, we should probably see something like the live demo here. Let me find the link for it. I know it's here somewhere. I think it's available under this link. When I click on the thumbnail. Okay, this is still working. And this is, the boilerplate is hosted on Azure, so it's gonna take a second to spin up the instance. It's a cold start, so. Okay, are we working here? All right, so it's gonna look like this when I run it locally as well. It just shows me let's get started page based on Bootstrap, and it shows you some of the sample data from the Dancing Goat sample site project. So it's clear that in the code there will also be a project ID where we are getting this data from. Now the read more button, I don't think it works. No, it just takes me back to the top of the page. So this is only like a showcase of the website, how it can work. Now let's see what's happening here. It seems to be stuck. Let's try it again. Okay, this looks better. This looks better. Okay, now let me open that in Visual Studio Code. So we're looking for Apollo and this folder. So first of all, when I started drawing the picture, I told you about schema. Now the schema, as you'll see here, is defined in GraphQL folder in queries and types, mainly types. This is something that is coming from Kentico Cloud. Now, this is the part that you can generate or you can define manually. For Kentico Cloud, this is obviously generated because we have there things like a tweet content type, office content type, hero unit content type, and so on. So you wouldn't want to manually type all of these things into the type schema. So what we actually do, you can see that in the package.json, that when I run debug, it runs first the generate schema command, and then it runs the website. So in the generate schema, you see that it's actually executing the generate GraphQL schema project. And that is set up as a dependency here with the project ID 975 blah blah blah. That is the sample dancing goat project, and it creates the type definitions in the output file GraphQL/types.js. So when we look here, this is actually the output of the generator, and for that reason I won't be touching this file at all, because even if I touched it, whenever I run debug, it will be regenerated and I will lose my changes, right? So I'm not going to do anything here. In the queries, so that's the second rectangle, if you remember. First one was types, the second rectangle was queries. So here I have actually two queries. Now they're already defined. One of them is for all the items. This will give me all the items that I have in my Kentico Cloud project. And I can also get items by type. If I or I can define a few of those parameters, but I will have them, as a result, I will get an array of the content items by their type. So for example, in the Kentico Advantage, type would be a face, right? So these are the queries, and down here you can also see the resolvers. So I said that for every query, you need to define a resolver that the Apollo uses when you ask for data, or when the implementation of the website asks for data. So that's exactly this part where we define the resolvers. Let's leave this for now, and let's take a look at the queries. So the query object, you see that the query object is defined here for all the queries that we have in GraphQL. And we have two queries here, items and items by type. So these are the resolvers for those queries respectively. The first one just uses the JavaScript SDK for Kentico Cloud to get all the items. The other one gets all the items but by type. So you see here that we're getting the items based on the type. So if I define that I want only phases or phase types, it will give me only those. And there are some optional parameters like limit, depth, or order that will further refine the query that is executed against Kentico Cloud. So you see the difference here between Gatsby and Apollo is that Gatsby actually takes all the data at the start when you compile the website. In case of Apollo, you're getting the data in real time. Yeah, so here we're limiting the queries to get the results that we want. So that's the items by type. The other thing here for the content item resolver, this is because you're gonna have many types, many different content types in Kentico Cloud, and we actually do have them here. If you look at our About Us content type, accessory content type, article content type, all of these are actually based on one single content item type. And I think that one is defined here, yeah, as a system field. Now, in order to get all of these strong types, we need to do one additional thing here and define the resolve type method. Now, we could also create items query or items query resolver for each of those types, but that would mean that for 10 different types, we would have to have 10 different resolvers. So that's not really handy if they all do the same thing. So that's why we always return content item. So in the definition of the query, you see it's returning content item. And before we actually return the data, we can check the type. So here for the content type, content item resolver actually contains method resolve type that takes the item. This is the raw item that is returned from Kentico Cloud, right? At this point, Apollo doesn't know in which type which type the item is of. But what we do here, every item from Kentico Cloud actually has a system and type property that says this is an article, or this is a tweet, or this is a phase. So here, Kentico Cloud always provides the type of the item. So what we're doing here is we're converting that type to a different notation that actually fits the type definition that we have here in GraphQL. And we're returning that as the type. So here, if I get an item, let's say it's about us content type. So if we're here and I get an item that is about us, in that case, the item system type will probably be something like about us. So what this code does is it actually takes a look at this property of the item, and if it finds something like this, it removes the underscore, it adds the Pascal case, and appends content type. And when that happens, I actually get this text, this string, and that enables Apollo to identify this item with this type. So then you're able to work with the strong type later in your implementation. So that's how the resolvers work. And when everything runs correctly, I think I should be able now to compile it. So npm install was the last command. So now I can do npm run debug. So this is going to take a second. And you see that the Express already tells me that it's listening on port 3000. So let's take a look. So the localhost 3000, you see that the page looks exactly the same. Is the startup page of the boilerplate, and it displays the data from Kentico Cloud from the general project under the same project ID. Right, so this if you do these for slow steps or simple steps, then you will probably get to the same screen. Now, what's interesting here is you can go to GraphQL Playground, which will show you something like this, an editor, where you can actually play around with all the data that are coming from GraphQL. So if I do Control and space here, you see that GraphQL schema currently contains two queries. One is for items and the other one is for items by type. Let's query for items and look for system or type name. Now the thing is here that at this point we don't actually know what kind of data we're getting. We don't know which item we're getting back. That's why in the help here, in the contextual help, I only have system and a type name. That's because here in the types, there is a content item that only has one field, system. And in the query, we're returning that generic content item. So that's the reason why I only see that here, system. And we can check, for example, type. Oh, I think that's the last one here. Let's do it this way. So this actually gives me all the types of the items that were returned from the Kentico Cloud project. Of course, it's not grouped by the type, so I may see some of them doubled, like article here. But what I can do is take an article, for example, and the article, let's look for that here. So that's the article content type. And what we can do here, I think we can do on article content type. So if you do the expand on this specific content type, so this means if the returned item is of this type, then give me these fields. Now you can see that the list of fields is much longer here. So on the article, I may want to have, or I may want to see the title. I may want to use the summary, for example, or some other fields. And for others, and this one including, I want to get the system type still. So see that for the about us, it's still only system type, but in case the item is of article content type, I also get the title and the summary. So this is how it works. This is how we can work with it in the implementation. And now let me actually adjust this implementation a little bit. So I'll go back to the localhost. And what I will try to do is under the articles from Dancing Goat sample site, I will try to add here one additional section for all the videos from the YouTube of the Boring Kentico Show. And we'll see if I can actually enhance this boilerplate for this functionality. So first of all, what I would need to do is I will need to define a type for the YouTube video. So I will create a new file here under GraphQL. Or you can actually make this YouTube types in case we need to have more than one. And I will actually try to make my life easier by copying everything from the previous file and by deleting almost everything in here. I'll just leave one here. Now it's not going to be type definition, but let's call that YouTube types. And the type is going to be called YouTube video. And for the YouTube video, I will definitely need a URL. I will need a name, maybe a description. There's usually a teaser image, so let's call that teaser. And maybe a date. Let's make that non-required. So this is gonna represent my YouTube video type. Now I wanna export the YouTube types. And I think I'm done like this. Obviously I will need to create another query as well. So this is the left rectangle from the drawing I did before. And the right rectangle will actually require me to create a query for this type of data. So I will put that here, but first of all, or let's do that later. Let's put here another query called videos, and we will be returning YouTube video array. So I think there's 2 videos right now. So we'll have an array of 2 videos right here. Now I don't really want to complicate it with parameters right now, but we can add them later. So when we have the schema here, we could try and go ahead and provide the resolver. Let me check the GoToMeeting. Nobody's here. Okay. Perfect. So let's create a resolver for the videos query. Now it's probably going to look very similarly to the first one here. Items async. So this is the same notation, but I will need to put here logic to get data from YouTube. Now, this part I already did for my personal website, I think last week. So if you look there, you will find one video here, and there's also one dedicated page for all the videos. Now, it took me quite a while to figure out how the YouTube API works, but it seems to work quite well when you generate the right keys. So I will try to use the same code as I did for that project. So let me actually locate that code and copy it over, so I don't have to waste time figuring it out again. So I think this was, yeah, this was here in the store. Let me just put it away and copy it over. Oh no, this is the medium. This is the right one. All right. So I think this is the right right code. Now I will probably need to put here the key as well, but let's leave that for now. Now you see that I'm using Axios here to get the data, so I will just stop the website for now and install Axios. And in the meantime, I will put it here. All right. I will probably move this one a bit to the left. And the response will come from the Google APIs plus the key. I wonder if this is gonna work. Let's leave it there. The process environment, if that's gonna pick up the environment file automatically. And I will actually copy it over. So just a second. And we'll see if that's gonna work. Okay, so I just added the environment file here. That contains my key. If I accidentally show it to you, I would have to cancel it and create a new one, so I will try my best not to do that. And we're not going to use context commit because that's a Nuxt specialty. So we're just going to need to use the REST data items, and we will need to return the data. So we're returning the data items, we want to map them, and this list of properties actually needs to correspond to the right type. Not here, but this is the list of properties that I will need to return in the object. So the URL I already have here. The name is gonna be, I think, the header in this case. So name is gonna be from the snippet title, and the teaser, I think, is here, description. So it's a bit of a different meaning, but otherwise it should be fine. Image is the teaser in our case, and the date will not be date, but I will just leave the string published at here. Well, I think we're done here. So this will take the item, it will map that to a different structure corresponding to the type that we have, and return the rest. So this was going to return the array of mapped videos. Now, this is not all you need to do here, because the content item resolver will currently try to resolve this as an item coming from Kentico Cloud. So I will add here one additional thing, that this is type YouTube video. And here in the resolve type, I'll just put here one condition. So if item type, because the items coming from Kentico Cloud do not really have this property defined, so it's gonna go in the rest of the method directly. But for all the other items, if that type is defined here, I will want to return that type. Cool. I think this is gonna work the way it is right now. I will probably need to add the type. So the types YouTube video is coming from the YouTube types, but this is not referenced anywhere right now. And by default, in this boilerplate, it's defined in the app.js, where we're creating the Apollo server. So the Apollo server needs to know the schema definition. So this is what happens under the type defs properties. So the first one is type definition, and I will need to add one for my YouTube types. So it's gonna be GraphQL YouTube types. Okay. So I have my YouTube types here, and I will put them here after the type definition. And the query type that is right after that will already know the YouTube type, or at least I hope so. We'll see in a moment. Now the resolvers are coming from the queries as well. That's what we defined here. For the content item query, videos is defined, so I think that we should be fine this way. Let's try to run this, and we'll see in a moment. Okay, no error, that looks good. So let's try to see the website. So the website looks the same way, which means I didn't break anything. That's already half the victory. And when we go to GraphQL Playground, we should be able to see not only items here, but we should also see videos. And when I go through the videos, we should see all the properties of the videos or YouTube video type. So we can go to take a look at the name and execute this. And here we get an error. That's probably because I didn't provide the key and the environment variable did not work. Yeah. So let me fix that. I'll just take that off for now. And I will put the key in there. Okay, I will close this file. Hopefully this is gonna work. So let me start this again. Yes. Okay, so we're listening again. Let's try this again. So you see that now with the key, it seems to work. So we're getting the data of videos of the show 1 and 2. If I want more data, which I probably will want, we can get the URL, we can get the image. Everything will be here. Yeah. So this is how you can use the GraphQL to enhance the website. And now let's take a look how we can actually add this to the website front end. So this is the front end, and let's enhance it a bit. So by default, I think we have that in the routes. So this is the index route, and we're looking for index page, I think, or index view. So this is the view that actually defines what's going to be displayed on the site. There is the H2 articles from the Dancing Goat sample site, so I'll just put it here. So I'll put here another row marketing, put here Kentico or Boring Kentico Show on YouTube. Let's put it another row. And I can either write here the HTML or just like we have with the articles, we can do here each video in videos. We want to put here a mixin called video. Let's call it video thumbnail to keep the convention. Okay, now let's save this. But I think that we will need to adjust the implementation a bit. Well, first thing, I will need to add a new mixin. So we have here article thumbnail. Let's call that video thumbnail. This is going to be video thumbnail with a video object. Now I'll keep the structure the same way. The title is going to come from video name. I think I called it video name. Let me check. GraphQL YouTube types. So we have name, description, and teaser as an image. So this is going to be video teaser. And alt could be video name. And here we can actually do video description. Okay, so we can name, teaser, description. What else do we have there? Name, teaser, description, URL, and date. So the URL will actually go for the ref here. So it's going to be video URL. Not read more, but play on YouTube. Okay, and the date we can render somewhere, but I think it's not the most important thing here. We can do that later. So we have the mixin in place. We have the index here that displays the data, but we also need to provide the data to the page. So let's take a look here at the index where we actually say that we want articles. We want only 3 articles ordered by the post date. So we will need to provide something very similar here. And we can actually take that to the GraphQL Playground to see what kind of data we will actually get. So let's put that here. So these are the data that we'll get for the articles. Now, because I need more, not just articles, let me prettify this. Cool. I'll also need to get videos. And I want to have the URL. I want to have a name. I want to get description. And I want to get the teaser image. Okay, now let's see. Down here we actually have videos with the data that we want. That looks good. So now we're actually defining here what should be rendered. So this is the index view, and we're defining the data set. So here I'll define not YouTube, but only videos, and that's going to be result data and videos. So at that point, we should have this property set, and here videos, video thumbnail. I think this should work. Let's try to run it again. So we're listening on localhost 3000. Oops, there is a problem here. Cannot read property length of undefined. So we're probably getting an issue here. Article in articles, video in videos. Videos. Oh, I think I need to include this here as well. That's one thing. Now let me check the route again. So we're getting videos, articles. Oh, I forgot to put it here. That's my mistake. Of course, I need to take this thing and put it here after the first query. Otherwise, it obviously wouldn't work. So let's try to do it again. Okay, again, listening on port 3000. So let's try to do it here. Okay, no error here, and we're actually looking at the latest videos. They are actually ordered by the date. And if I look at this or click on this, hopefully this should take me to YouTube. Okay, so this is the show number 2. So you see that it's quite easy to get the data from the GraphQL, to create the resolver, and to include the data in the implementation using the GraphQL. Of course, the other queries are a bit more complicated. They also work on the data that are coming from Kentico Cloud, so they have a bit more structure. As you can see in the article thumbnail, where we're getting actually the object of a teaser image, we're getting assets, we're getting the URLs, we're also getting the name of the URL of the asset. For the summaries and for all the other elements from Kentico Cloud, we also need to do dot value and so on. In my case with the YouTube, it's much easier. I just do a dot and the name of the property as I defined it here in the YouTube types. Cool. So that was so far that was all that I wanted to show you today. How you can actually extend the Apollo and work with GraphQL. The cool thing about this is that the app.js file is really straightforward. You can see that it's we're here just instantiating the Apollo server and applying the middleware for the Express server. So this file actually gets really straightforward and nice, while everything else is spread out through the project in mixins, in views, and the implementation looks quite nice. So that's all for this part for the GraphQL and Apollo. Let me check if we have any questions on the GoToMeeting, but we don't. Let me check if we have anything here in the chat. Okay, there is no question. There are no questions in the chat. So if you guys actually want, I can share the edit implementation with you, but it's really simple. So I think it's quite easily visible from the video as well. If you liked today's session, then join me in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I will show you how to work with Kentico Cloud and or maybe Kentico MVC. I'm not sure yet. How to work with that and the Blazor from Microsoft. That actually sounds very intriguing, and I haven't yet had a time to look at it. So we'll try to build one very interesting project using that. And actually host it locally, host it as a static website locally and then on GitHub. So make sure to follow me on Twitch, and in 2 weeks I will try to show you how that actually works out. And for today, thank you for your attention. And as usual, I will share the recording with you through Twitch and then post it on YouTube. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.